people will say, well, how do you have Embiid at number 5 lower than he is as a regular season scorer because he hasn't done well in the playoffs when SGA hasn't been there? The reason to me is that Embiid's failings have been about skill set, and they've been repeated, and they've been things that before last year's playoff run, I told you, hey, this is why I have Embiid this low in my player rankings. These are the things that have historically failed him and I think may fail him again. And then they did. It was shot making. It was reliance on getting to the line. It was health. All of those things failed him as they have before. When I look at SGA's game, it's not just that he's scoring 31 a night on 65% true shooting, which makes him one of the elite top 5 regular season scorers. It is that he does the most valuable thing for those playoff environments to me, which is what we've talked about. Getting to your spots at will, specifically in and around the paint. Not being so reliant on just getting to the rim where you're a Giannis, and if teams wall you off, you can't beat them with over-the-top shot making. But being able to get 10, 15 feet from the rim and make over 50% of those shots, like, that's everything, man. That's where titles are won and lost. That's what Jokic did last year. That's what Kawhi has done in 2019. And I think that SGA excels there. He is an unstoppable downhill force. I think he's pretty clearly the hardest player in the league to stay in front of. He's number 1 among perimeter players in restricted area makes. And I have never seen a guy move like SGA. The shifts in gears are the most devastating in terms of just, oh my God, look at me. It's what you were talking about with Book, but it's on another level, like that ability to explode, to get to that top gear from nothing so quickly. And his body control around the rim, I've talked about, it's the best we've seen since MJ. Like that ballerina paint navigation, the spins, the footwork, and then his variety as a finisher, where he makes over 70% of his shots in the restricted area. He's one of the best paint scoring guards we've seen ever. I'm tempted to say the best paint scoring guard since Michael Jordan. Like these other dudes, if you're talking about guys who just pressure the rim at a crazy level, Russell Westbrook.
D-Wade.
D-Wade is up there. D-Wade is very much up there because he has maybe even a little bit more rim pressure, but SGA is a better short-range shot maker than any of those guys. He is 5th in makes in the paint outside the restricted area, and he shoots over 51% on those shots. He's also 6th in mid-range makes on over 49% shooting. So that's what I'm saying. That entire intermediate and inside area, SGA gets what he wants every time. He can stop on a dime, step back. He can snatch that ball back. He can give you a bump to get to his step back. He's legitimately a weapon out of the post. He doesn't post up a lot, but he scores with 96th percentile efficiency there. He has nasty footwork. He can spin. He can step through. He can fade. Like, he's just going to get a good shot inside of 15 feet. And people think of SGA as this just downhill guard like a John Morant or whoever. He shoots the best percentage, the best effective field goal percentage, 54, on pull-up jumpers of anybody on this list. Like, he is absolutely lethal there. He has a counter for everything, and he has such great skilled shot making on top of these great physical tools and just ability to get where he wants. He and Luka are the premier isolation scorers in basketball. They are the premier scoring guards in basketball. SGA scores with 92nd percentile efficiency out of pick and roll, a 93rd percentile isolation efficiency, and he's not a prolific three-point shooter. It's not where he wants to butter his bread, but he's accurate. He's nearly 38% this year. I think he's improved there, and specifically on step backs, he's 43%, and you see that in the Clippers game yesterday, right? If you're sitting a little bit too hard on a drive one angle, fine. He'll just pull it back, step back, and he's nails on those shots. And he's insane in the open court. We mostly focus on half-court scoring on this list, it feels like, because that's what, in those slowed-down playoff environments, you're going to rely on most. But he is one of the best transition scorers in basketball. So I understand the notion that he has to prove it in the playoffs. And I'm a little bit nervous having him this high because of that. But what I would ask is where we can point to Embiid's game and say, okay, this is where he struggles. The playmaking also, right? How that allows defenses to guard him differently, send doubles. That's not an issue for SGA, who's a very good playmaker. If you say that you're going to build a wall, as I've seen some teams do, like you would hear about Giannis back in the day, one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA is just going to destroy you. If you say, well, it's going to be about more physical defense, moving him off his spots.
There's nobody better at using their body weight against them than SGA.
Well, I totally agree with that. I think his physicality is incredible and underrated because people look at this slight guy like SGA is taking all those bumps and bruises and he is using them against you. And I also just don't see dudes who can stay in front of him. Like, I was watching the Magic game right before the All-Star break. Jalen Suggs is the prototypical guy you would want to guard SGA, right? Compact, really physical guard who's also just a dog, who's also super athletic, should be able to stick with him. And he was defending him so well, and he was still getting work because it turns out an SGA turnaround is still unbelievably efficient. People who say he's a free throw merchant, that I saw a lot more last year, is just not true. He and Luka are like the same here. They both take a lot of free throws, about 9 a game, but it's because they get fouled a bunch on real drives. And Luka has actually taken more free throws in the playoffs than the regular season. Like, SGA isn't a grifter. It's not something that won't translate to me. And again, he's not reliant on it because he's an insane shot maker. Why are you talking about free throws when the guy makes 55% of his attempts from the field? That is the bottom line field goal percentage. We can go to an old-fashioned stat here. For a guard, 55% from the field, scoring 31 points per game. I think the guy's unbelievable. I think he is one of the modern marvels in the NBA. I think he is an MVP candidate for years and years to come. And he was so great last year, but he's gotten better. I mean, he's gotten even better as a mid-range shooter, gotten even better as a three-point shooter, gotten even better as a finisher around the rim. He just boggles my mind.
Yeah, when you're talking about modern scoring guards, the two guys that I would point to that you should watch and take notes on are Jalen Brunson and SGA, just in terms of how they operate, how they move, where they get. The difference with SGA, and that's the kind of point of emphasis that we've been talking about with all of these scorers, is his shot diet, his dynamism. When you are playing defense on a guy and he has everything in his bag, when he has every counter, you as a defender are in a personal hell. It's whatever decision you make, SGA has that counter and is going to go to the opposite that works against it. And he slithers like a snake, man. It's weird. Like, SGA moves like it's crafty, it's methodical, like you said, I've never seen anybody move quite like SGA. The one move that's so deadly to me is that step back, because it like creeps out of nowhere, and like it's like comical. It's like a cartoon almost when he drags that right leg back. Because it's like he's taking his right leg back 6 entire feet when he's creating that separation and just resets. I've never seen anybody as good at slamming on the brakes immediately and just stopping and boom. SGA has mastered scoring. I don't have any issue putting him up this high. I am so confident in SGA's game directly, unless it's a mental thing. Because there's nothing about his skill set and his talent. Like, the only thing that I think can limit SGA is if when he gets in that playoff scenario, it's a mental thing. There's nothing about his physical profile, about his skill set, about the way he gets his buckets that says he is going to falter in the playoffs. And it's the same thing I'd say about Embiid. There's nothing about Embiid's game, skill-wise or talent-wise, that screams to me he's going to falter. It is a mental thing to me.
I don't totally agree.
There's some matchups where I think Embiid can fall, but I think moreover than anything else, it's a mental thing with Embiid when it comes to the postseason. And to me, I don't know. Again, we haven't seen him on the stage, so we can't say yet. But SGA in the regular season, and SGA seems like a dog, like a headstrong, hard-nosed, ready for the moment kind of dog. I think you said this earlier too. He's shooting 49% on 10 pull-up field goals a game. You can look at all the different play types and actions. He is uber efficient out of them all. SGA's unstoppable, man. And it doesn't make sense. Every game that I watch, it's like, oh, SGA might miss that. Nope. They're playing great defense on him. SGA should miss that. It doesn't matter. There's an inevitability with SGA. And there's only two guys that I think I can put above him because they're just more physically imposing than SGA, even more physical, because that's something that I do think gets underrated, man. SGA's great at contact, using the elbow, using the little, and I don't care, man. You can get mad at it. Oh, it's a push-off. You can get mad. SGA's great at using it. Basketball's a contact. It's a physical sport, and that's not getting called. There are very few players better at using their body to create and open up looks in the mid-range, and he is one of the most dynamic scorers. Again, the reason I left Tatum off my list is the predictability is, I don't have to drop on Tatum on this possession. I don't have to fully go to the paint. The reason that SGA is so deadly is because he is such a great rim pressure and such a good finisher around the rim that defenders have to drop to the paint. They have to respect the fact that he could go to the rim. And when they do, when they overcompensate and go to the rim, he slams on the brakes and hit that mid-range jumper. You don't have to respect Tatum as much in that regard. You do with SGA. He is a Rubik's Cube. He is a nightmare to guard, man. Like, SGA is effectively an unstoppable scorer.